What does it mean when we're avoiding our grief? It's almost like we're robbing from ourselves. We're stealing our own emotions. We're stealing that experience away from ourselves. When you avoid your emotions, when you avoid your grief, you cut yourself off from being on the healing journey. You almost just cut yourself right off at the pass. You stop what's supposed to naturally happen. You stop the process that's supposed to take place.
We're not prepared for it. We're not prepared for, and I said this in another podcast, until it happens to you, you don't know how heavy those emotions are and how dark they can be and how crazy making they are. So when you experience it, of course, you want to do whatever you can to not feel the feeling. So avoiding makes complete sense. I totally understand why people do it, but it definitely doesn't help you and it prolongs your grieving experience.
You It not only prolongs it, you cause yourself undue suffering.
Yeah.
Suffering that it's going to be grieving by itself is hard enough. Why cause undue suffering to yourself? Why add to that? Why prolong it even longer than it has to be? We talk about meeting people 20 and 30 years. Can you imagine grieving? If you hadn't done the grief work on Donovan, where you would be right now?
No,
You
I
would still
can't.
be suffering.
Yeah, I can't. I don't even know what I would look like as a person. I would probably be someone that everyone would want to avoid in social situations. Don't sit next to Erica. She's a real downer.
Especially if she's drinking wine. You don't want to go over there. Um, 100%. We start to recognize that avoiding our emotions is mostly because we become afraid that we'll feel out of control if those emotions show up. People say to us all the time, if I let this in, then it's going to kill me.
Yeah, that it feels like that.
Yeah.
It really does.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
feels like you cannot physically withstand all of the emotions that come with grief.
I have a saying at the end of one of my emails, and it says, it's not the grief we're trying to avoid, even though we think it is. It's feeling the emotions.
Yeah,
What's really happening, we're not avoiding the grief. We think it's avoiding the grief, but we're really avoiding the emotions because we don't know how to do it.
right.
We don't know how to process emotions. And that's what we're really trying to avoid.
And you think that with the grief is just going to be sadness. It's not. It's longing for them to
Yeah.
have one more conversation.
Yeah.
It's anger that they left you. It's anger at uh, whatever the tragedy was. It's regret.
Yeah.
It's all the things. It's
Yeah.
not just sadness. So that's the part that I think is so shocking for people because you're like, oh, I'm grieving. I'm just going to be sad. No, you're going to be every single emotion a person can experience on any given day at any given moment. It's going to
Yeah.
be, it's going to be like a roller coaster ride.
One of the classes that we teach in our program is called emotional awareness. And we teach that because just like us, most grievers aren't aware that they have to drop down into their emotions and they have to feel their emotions. Let alone, first of all, we didn't know that that was a thing. But then, second of all, you come to what is an emotion? What does
Mhm.
this feel like? Why do I have to feel this? We don't even know the language of emotions. We don't even know the words that go along with that feeling. That's why a lot of times grievers will tell us that they feel guilty when in actuality, it's regret.
Right. Yeah. Or people say, I'm stuck. I'm just
Yeah.
stuck. But
Yeah.
it's not that you're stuck, you're not allowing the emotions in.
Yeah.
You're resisting them. You're putting your hands up and you're saying, "No, not this. I don't wanna do this. I'm gonna go over here and busy myself and think I'm gonna do these projects so I don't have to think about it or feel it." You're not stuck. You gotta let the emotions in, and then you gotta name it. Like you said, you gotta call it by its
100%.
name.
100%. So, as humans, not as griever, I'm just talking about as humans, most of us don't know emotions. We
Mhm.
don't talk in emotions. We don't share in emotions. We don't teach our children emotions. We don't teach our children to be in their emotions and allow them their emotions, right? We don't give them respectful space for their emotions. It wasn't given to us. We don't give it to them. And so we don't know that one of the first things we have to do is be consciously aware of what we're feeling and consciously aware of what that feeling is. And even if I said sad, like we hear a lot of grievers say, well, I feel sad. What is sadness? What is sadness? Take that one emotion that you know, you can call it sadness, take that one emotion and break it apart completely. In other words, we'll tell grievers all the time, I'm a Martian. I just came here from outer space. In my world, we don't have emotions. So tell me what sad is. Describe sad to me. And I'll start quite often with what color is it?
Mhm.
What color is sadness? And it's really interesting how everybody has a different version of their color of sadness.
Right.
How does it move? Is it slow or is it fast? Describe it to me. Where do you feel it in your body? A lot of time grievers will say, I feel it in my gut. I feel it in my heart. I feel it in my back. Like all of us feel sadness in a different way. But just become familiar with that one emotion right now. That's all we're asking you to do. Don't avoid it. Just become familiar with that one emotion.
I think Lewis is from that planet. Every time I'm talking in emotions, I just get this blank stare, like he doesn't understand the words that are coming out of my mouth. Anyway, I digress. The other thing, the reason why we don't talk in emotions, because the minute we do say something, I feel bad I didn't get him to the hospital sooner. What does the person you're talking to say? You shouldn't feel like that.
Yeah. Don't feel bad. Here, come on, let's go out to lunch. Don't feel bad. Let's go to the mall.
Yeah, that's why we're not trained to talk in emotion, because the minute we do, we're told not to feel what we're feeling. So
Yeah.
it's like this vicious cycle of one, we need to speak more in emotion, but also people need to give us the space to say what we need to say without trying to change our minds about it.
The other thing is, Erica, I'm not talking about let's go into your therapist's office and just sitting and talking about all the grief. That's not what we're talking about. I'm talking about paying attention. And if all we can pay attention to is one emotion today, that we grab a hold of that emotion and we pay close attention to it. We go throughout our day and we're like, every time I feel something, I'm going to write down what I think that's called. That's being aware that there are emotions. It's becoming aware that grieving is an emotional experience.
Right, right. And there are some people out there that will do any and everything they can to not let those feelings in. They
Yeah.
don't want them. They don't want to deal with it. They don't want to talk about it. They don't want to manage it. And they almost like they have their body seizes up because they don't want to let any of the things in. And that is so much more challenging than, like you said, giving it its time and space every day. Okay, what is this? What does this feel like? Okay,
Yeah.
how does that, why? And jot that down, then you can move on. The
Yeah.
more you squeeze and fight against it, the longer it lasts and you can't shake it. But if you just acknowledge it, call it by its name, jot down what triggered that for you. I
Yeah.
was thinking about his birthday is coming up and we won't have a birthday party this year. Totally makes sense.
Yeah.
You've identified it, you've called it by its name, and you put the trigger, what triggered it together. That gives you a release when you do that.
Yeah. Oh, big time. Big
You're
time.
like, oh,
And the
and
other
like,
thing is, even if you don't go to all 3 levels, Erica, just say, "Oh, this is that thing again that I don't like feeling. This is that thing that keeps causing me to go to the pantry and get food. This is that thing that causes me to get wine." Name it. Say it out loud. One of the ways that we can do this is, and I share this all the time, put your hand over your heart. This is sadness. And say it. Okay, sadness. Acknowledge that the sadness is there, just like you said. Acknowledge it's there. All right, sadness, I'm going to let you in for a minute. Don't let it in. I don't care if you're not letting it in at the beginning. At least becoming aware is the most important part.
Right.
I do
Right.
care, but I don't even know why I say that. But it's the most important part is to let that acknowledge that
And I
what it
think
is called.
another reason we don't let the feelings in or even have the emotional awareness is because people tell us, you're never going to get over this pain.
Yeah.
You're never going to get over this. So it's like, if I'm never going to get over it, then I don't want to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's another podcast, I think, all in itself. That's a great title. We definitely got to
Yeah.
go there.
We just get all this misinformation about things, and then that deters us from going through the process.
So, one of the things that we do in our program is we do something called an emotional check in. You know, I've created this thing called an emotional check in, and we have every griever give us an emotional check in. And I just start with, like, how was the week? How is today? Along with that emotional check in, quite often you and I will do an emotional check in right
Mhm.
there with them because we need to be talking in emotion. It is the holy grail of healing from grief is talking in emotions, sharing those emotions and saying what those emotions absolutely are. So one of the things you can do, my grieving friend, is start asking yourself this question. What am I feeling right now? What am I feeling right now?
I got to be honest, I really look forward to the emotional check-in. We're real people. We have real stuff. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and we need to lead by example. So I love that we participate in the emotional check-in because there's a lot of times I've come with my frustration or my sadness or my whatever, and I share it because I need that. I need someone to also say, "Oh, dang, that's a lot. Like, I'm sorry you carrying that."
Right. Because here's the other reason that we do the emotional check in. They're expecting us to come in and be all healed and perfect because everyone thinks you're coming to that land called happiness, right? And a lot of times we go to do the emotional check in and we're like, I'm really frustrated. I just got in a fight with my husband because he didn't want to sign the checks that I gave him over to sign, and he didn't get it done in a timely fashion. I'm really frustrated with him. And we've had this fight over and over again. And so the emotion that I'm feeling right now is frustrated, angry, mad, and embarrassed, whatever those are. Because here's the deal, we're humans,
Hmm.
we're grievers, and the emotions continue to show up for us. And sometimes our emotions are, I'm feeling really content right now.
Yeah, I love
I'm
those
feeling
things.
happy right now. I'm feeling satisfied. But I think when grievers hear us say that, it allows them that space to go there and say it.
Absolutely. And like you said, we got to teach people how to speak in emotions because it's something we weren't taught and it's something we're discouraged from doing when we go into the public. They don't want to hear it because they don't want to identify with a negative emotion that they might be having. So they'd rather you stop you from talking about yours.
Most of us are disconnected with our emotions. The other day, I was driving in the car and I felt sad. This is a true story. I felt sad. And I was like, what is this? Like all of a sudden, I just felt the sadness. So I had to like trace back to like what brought it there because most of the times before we have the emotion, we have a thought. So I started thinking about all the things in my that I was thinking about in my brain that made the sadness come, and I was able to connect it right then and there. I was like, oh, I thought that thought, and then I started to feel sad. When you recognize that you're having a feeling, stay with that emotion. Stay with it for as long as you can. Like Erica said, write the three things down. Jot it down in a piece of paper. Have it ready to share with us. Hey, this emotion keeps coming up for me and I don't know what the connection is. Or I don't know how to feel this. I don't want to feel this. I'm scared of feeling this.
Hmm. I think that's the biggest hindrance for people is the
Yeah.
fear that they will never get over it and they'll never be able to get out of those feelings.
Erica, I think what we really need to have our clients understand is this is an intimate relationship. You and your feelings have an intimate relationship. And if you're not allowing those feelings in, your intimacy can be flawed. And this intimacy can be good, bad, ugly, sweet, sour, doesn't matter how you it shows up for you, but it's yours and yours alone. You really need to own these emotions.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Owning them and accepting that they're going to show up. They're going to show up whether you let them in or not. But when you don't let them in, you start behaving in a negative manner that then spills over into other parts of your life. And you don't want that.
Friends, this is a part of our humanness here on earth. We're never going to arrive to the island called happy. We just are not. But we can live out our humanness. And in
Mhm.
our humanness, we grieve. And in our humanness, we feel emotions, some good, some bad. We feel them all. We got to feel the feelings. See if you can start creating an intimate relationship with one of your emotions. It'd be interesting to see just you trying it out on your own.
Absolutely. And it definitely changes your perspective on things once you start practicing it and really putting
Yeah.
it into place because you understand how to manage your emotions.
Yeah. And I feel like we're coming to an end, but I'm going to digress a little bit. One of the reasons that we really started talking about this, Erica, and maybe you could share, is you're resistant to feeling the emotions with Donovan.
Completely resistant. I fought tooth and nail not to feel the emotions. I thought that if I let that sadness in, it was going to wash over me like a tsunami and I would never be able to get back up from that. I would never get a breath of fresh air again and be able to live. So I just was so mad at him. So mad at him for the choices that he made. I just I don't know. I got myself stuck and I got myself in some real trouble. And thankfully I got to the point where I couldn't continue like that anymore because it just wasn't me. It's not in my nature to be angry and bitter and hostile all the time, even though Lewis would say different. But I just don't feel that
I
that's
agree with
my
Lewis.
norm. I don't think that that's my norm. And the other thing is to understand you don't have to get back to a place where it's positive or negative. You can even get to a place of neutral
Yeah.
where you don't have a feeling about things one way or another, but you still get a release from the darkness of the emotions that you're having. Getting to a place of neutral is almost a lifesaver.
Victory. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, what a
Yeah.
victory. Oh, definitely. Where the emotional energy is not being drained from you.
Yeah.
That's what neutral is.
And
You
I
can
love
think about the
neutral.
stories. Yeah, neutral's amazing. You can think about the stories. You can look at the picture and you don't have a charge, an energetic charge. Friends, we wanna, leave you with this final thought that this is doable. This is doable, and we promise you it will not kill you. We
It
promise
will
you that.
not. It will not. And it actually will be such a life-saving tool for you to have because we have emotions like you said it's our humanness,
Yeah.
so stop avoiding it and get to work, friends.
Thank you. Bye, friends.